And welcome back to the Gadd Market Report. This month we look back at February 2023. Once again, I'm joined by Damon Steele, and we are going to be discussing buying a property that needs some work and how you can achieve that. But before we get into that, my name is Gadd. I've been selling real estate here in Fernie for the last 5 years. If you're looking for some guidance or you'd like to discuss the market, please feel free to reach out below this video, the contact information below this video. But without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so this month we look back at February 2023, and in my opinion, the Fernie market has really come to life in the last couple of months. So that'll obviously be shown in March's stats. But in February, we were actually down new listings, only 18 last month. So that's 18% on last year, and also on the actual sold listings, which was at 10. So that's down 17% on the same time last year, February 2022. Sell to list ratio is down slightly, but it's still strong at 97%. So, things are pretty much, there's not too much movement in there. So things are pretty much selling for close to what they get listed. And in my opinion, in the last 2 weeks, we are seeing buyers come out the woodwork and, multiple offers again. And the amount of listings, especially on sort of prime property, is shooting up. So the market very active in my opinion right now. Days on market, those it's up actually 66% to 98% this month. 98 days. So that's a big jump from last month. So houses just not typically moving last month as quickly as they were in January and December. Month supply of inventory still heading upwards, but still not broken 4. We're at 3.61. So anything above 4 really sort of transferring more into a buyer's market. So we're still in that kind of, is it a seller's market? Is it a buyer's market? The market is still a little unsure at the moment. But yeah, like I said, the market has really come to life in the last few days, and lots of showings, multiple offers on lots of properties. But today we're going to speak with Damon about something a little bit different, and about how you can maybe secure some financing on a property that needs some work.
Great. Yeah. Well, thanks, Phil. Much like in Fernie, the Lower Mainland is kind of seeing the same. So it's a low amount of available listings, properties going into multiples. So it's kind of like a return to more normalized seller's market, which we've been seeing over the course of 2020, 2021, which was kind of seems counterintuitive given where interest rates have gone. And so what we have been finding is that a lot of our clients are running into scenarios where they're having to go and bid in multiples on the same property that's turnkey, that kind of ticks all the boxes that everybody else is interested in. And what is starting to languish on the market, or what's sitting there a little bit longer, are properties that are in great locations that have great bones. Let's say, for instance, it's a strata property that's a well-maintained strata building, but the interior of the unit needs an update. Interior of the unit needs some help and some work. And so clients will often ask us about, well, how can I make that happen? Right? Seems a little bit like, I keep hearing about construction or renovations, and that the cost overruns come into the fray. You can't finance any of the construction work that you're trying to do. You have to pay for it all yourself. And so we just wanted to help provide a little bit more clarity on what are the different options that you have to be able to do a renovation, or to be able to do some construction, maybe buy the home and customize it exactly to your taste, or take your existing home, renovate it so that it's a little bit more of a fit for you. So let's start off with kind of the most entry level. So let's say, for instance, you've got first-time home buyer looking to buy their first apartment, condo, townhouse, and they only have enough money, let's say, for instance, for whatever they're looking to buy, for, let's say, 5 to 10% down. So they might say, well, okay, in order for me to update this place that's exactly the right fit, ticks all the boxes, it's in the right location, it's where I've always wanted, but for me to do the work that I need to do based on a contractor's estimate, I'm going to need another $30,000 to $40,000. Update the kitchen, update the bathroom. Nothing too extensive, but it's definitely going to add value. How can I make that happen? Well, the easiest option that you can explore might be just getting a straight up unsecured credit line. So those are available, they're plentiful. Sometimes banks might be willing to give them to you if you can just qualify for it based on your income and your credit alone, in addition to buying a home. A lot of the time, the banks will even just give one to you, right? Which can be helpful. Now, let's say, for instance, you are looking to add the construction finance or the construction or renovation financing into your mortgage, which is also another great option. By doing that, generally it lowers the borrowing costs. But if you were to do that, the lender is willing to give you the money, but they need to know a little bit more information upfront. So the typical process for this would be you have a contractor that's prepared and ready to go, someone that you've already interviewed and that you've trusted. You tell them a little bit about what it is that you're hoping to do, just so that they're in the same price range. They're able to be able to provide you estimates and quotes fairly quickly. And as you search for a property, when one comes up that you're like, hey, I'm really interested in this one, you have that type of relationship where you can send it to them. You can say, here's what I'm looking to do. Or let's say, for instance, you might be working with a designer who can help maybe make recommendations on what you could do. And the contractor is then required to provide a quote for the scope of work that you're intending to do. So that's an important part of this. You need to have an estimate from them to be able to provide it to the bank and say, I want to buy this home. I'm looking to do a renovation. It's going to cost $30,000 to $40,000, and here's a contractor's estimate to prove it. So it's at that point in time where the bank will say, okay, you qualify for the purchase price that you're looking at. You also qualify with the added debt that we would need to put into this because it's as part of the construction financing. And so we'll approve this whole loan with the entire amount that you've set forth. Now, you don't get the construction financing right away. What you're intended to do is either provide a deposit to your contractor and set kind of a time frame for when they anticipate completion. Usually you're looking for these projects to be done in about 3 months, right? That's kind of the scope of work that they're looking for. Nothing too massively extensive. Sometimes those can be extended up to 6 months, but generally you're trying to stay within a time frame of about 3 months. And then when you have the work completed, the lender will then advance the money. So they'll send in an appraiser. The appraiser is going to go in and evaluate to make sure that all the work that was in the scope was done. They're not there to reevaluate the property, though. So don't worry if the market declines by that time that they're not going to give you the money. They're going to give you the money as long as you've done all of the work that you said you would do. So if, let's say, you said, I'm going to do the bathroom and the kitchen, and you decide, I put my whole budget towards the kitchen, they're going to cut you back. So you want to make sure that you're following the scope of work that was originally approved upon when you did it.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what we refer to as a construction loan program called Purchase Plus Improvements.
Okay.
So if you ever heard that term, Purchase Plus Improvements, that's the one where they'll give you the approval, so you know the money could come. You have to pay for it in advance, and then they'll give you the money once the work is all completed.
Okay, cool. So could it be something, does it have to be done like when you're first applying for the loan, or could it sort of be done, like, for example, like some first time home buyers might just be excited about buying something, but then they get in, they go, oh shoot, we need to do this and we need to do that. Can they go back to the lender and say, look, we've moved in, but we'd like to to use this type of mortgage, or does it have to all be done when you're pre-approving?
So if they have less than 20% down,
Yeah.
it has to be all done before the mortgage gets advanced, before the purchase completes.
Okay.
So it can be pretty intense. So if you have a client that's looking to make an offer on a property like this, we would usually ask for somewhat of an extended subject removal period.
Right.
And we'd often recommend a bit of an extension on the closing period as well, just to make sure that we can get kind of everything aligned.
Right.
You may also want to include in the contract that they can provide access, or that the sellers will provide access to the property several times, so that if, let's say, for instance, the contractor needs to get a few more measurements so that they just hit the ground running as soon as completion takes place. And it could be really great time, especially for first-time home buyers, to actually do the renovation on their first purchase, because they might already be living at home, they might be renting. So it's not like they're going to be living in the property in the midst of construction, right? They can
Mhm.
continue to keep their existing rental unit for the next couple of months while the work gets completed, and then choose to move in later.
Right.
So, so that program only exists for people who have less than 20% to put down. Exists for them. There's some restrictions on this as well. You can't go for more than the total purchase price plus renovations can't exceed $1 million.
Okay.
So it would need to be below that threshold. And there's certain limitations on how much of the improvement you can make. So like what percentage of the actual property value can be used towards the improvement. So what I mean by that is you can't buy a $300,000 condo and do a $300,000 reno.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to want to cap that at a reasonable amount, and it would be based on kind of, does this sway the market value of the property to at least be equal to the purchase price plus the improvement amount. So if you did,
Right.
so if you were buying a $400,000 place and doing a 50K reno, does that 50K reno make the property worth at least 450?
Right.
Is like the logic behind that. Now,
Okay.
that being said, if you let's say you bought the property and you moved into it and you're like, whoa, this bathroom really needs work, and you've put at least 20% down. So when you originally bought the property, you have at least 20% of your own equity in there. You can look at potentially the lender that you already have your mortgage with as potentially providing you with renovation financing. Not all lenders do it.
Okay.
So if, and this is how myself personally, how I've typically done it, is I've ensured that whatever lender that I'm placing my original mortgage with has the flexibility to offer me the option to do renovation financing in the future if I needed it. So,
Okay.
and it would much work in the same way. So like they'll do an appraisal based on the construction costs that you're anticipating plus the value of the property, and they will finance up to 80% of that total amount. So
Okay.
whatever you can qualify. So you're still putting 20% down, so to speak, against the reno cost, right? You
Right.
still need to have that component included. They won't
Yeah.
just give you all of the money for your reno.
Yeah.
Um, Now, let's say, for instance, you own the home, you've owned it for several years, and you want to do a renovation now. The easiest is just a refinance.
Right.
Lender doesn't need to know anything about the actual construction scope. I'd still recommend you get a contractor to be able to do all of the to convey how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
Anticipate that there's going to be some cost overruns, as there always are. Anticipate there's always going to be some delays, because there always are.
Mm.
Um, but in a refinance scenario, all you have to do is qualify for the mortgage based on your income, your credit, your equity that you have in the property. So long as your property is depending on what it's worth, and you have the income to service it, a lender will give you up to 80% of its total value,
Okay.
not even considering the renovation. And when they do that, they just give you the money up front. So if you just say, I want to have $100,000 because that's what I qualified for based on my refinance, plunked into my account for me to do whatever I want to do with it, you can do that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I guess we could kind of go into the larger scope of work projects. So this is where, let's say, you're going to be doing a more substantial reno, even what we would consider to be like new construction, right? A full gut of the house. It's you might be doing all the plumbing, your electrical, all of the HVAC, all the services, everything that is included, plus, modifying the property as well.
Hmm.
Most people don't have all the money, and most contractors won't do all the work in one fell swoop, and then you get the money at the end.
Right.
In those scenarios, that's what we call a progress draw mortgage.
Okay.
So that's where a lender will say, okay, you're approved for this extra money that we want to do, that you are requesting.
Yeah.
They're going to ask for a full budget. They're going to ask for architectural or design drawings based
Right.
on the scope of work that you're intending to do. They'll have an appraiser review all of that and make sure that the end value will at least match up with the equity and the amount that they're extending to you for the mortgage amount.
Right.
And then they'll release it to you as you make progress.
Right.
So as you're making progress, they'll release a little bit and a little bit and a little bit until you get to completion. So you'll still need to have your own money. We would usually recommend access to between 40 and 50% of the total construction cost as just a separate amount, so that you can continue to fund the construction work, continue to pay your contractor every time they ask to pay an invoice.
Right.
And then once you get to a certain threshold, requesting that money to be advanced back by the bank to pay yourself back.
Okay.
So it can be it can be a bit complicated, but if you've got the right guidance, you've got the right team in place, which is so super key. So like I've mentioned, having a contractor that you know, like, and trust.
Hmm.
Don't try and find one when you've written an offer on a property, because they're busy people. You also don't want to be put in a situation where you settle for someone that's not somebody that you thought was that great, or you didn't really feel a great connection to.
Yeah.
You want to be able to have an awesome realtor like Phil Gadd, who can tell you what are the recommended improvements you should be making that's actually going to create value in this
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
And then working with the right mortgage team to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. You've got adequate amount of capital and cash to be able to continue to make progress, and you don't get stuck.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. A lot of people, I think, may not even realize that, those options are available to them. So, that's great info.
Yeah, I've personally renovated 5 properties.
Right.
So lots of experience. I know the hardships. I've gone through the ups and downs. I know what to expect. I'm in the process, and I'm still doing it. So clearly, I haven't learned my lesson. But I'm in the process now of building a coach home or a laneway home
Right.
behind my house. So it's like basically a smaller version of my house.
Right.
And I've gone through the whole permitting process, architectural design, construction. We're about to complete in March.
Right. Yeah. Great. Yeah. No, I've had some experience as well, like renovating older buildings here in Fernie, and yeah, you definitely need that team. That's key, I would say. Having all the people, like for example, one of the buildings we almost did like a pre-report that we used a structural engineer, a quantity surveyor, and an architect to give us a report that, I mean, it was a little bit different. We were going for a commercial, more of a commercial thing, but it enabled us to basically secure the financing that we need. That, along with our business plan. Business plan's obviously not required for residential, but I think my point is having that team of people that like, and trust really does get you the better result in the end.
Yeah. Don't feel like you need to be an expert. Do your research, right? So you would want to obviously, check online, maybe look at forums of other people that have been in construction, but really try and find the best stakeholders that can help you with it. And like I said, not every lender is great with these products. So while you might think, well, I'll just go to my existing bank because that's where my existing mortgage is, and I've had a great relationship with them, they may not be the best fit, and they might leave you holding the bag when you are asking for an advance, or when you're looking for the next tranche of money that you need to get your project off the ground. So
Yeah.
it's important to look at all your options, and we'd be more than happy to help.
That's great. Awesome, Damon. Thanks again for joining me this month. Again, as always, Damon's contact details are below this video. So if you would like to reach out to him or his team to get more information on what we've discussed today, he'll be happy to help with you there. So yeah, once again, thanks for listening in to my Phil Gadd market report for February 2023. And we look forward to seeing you next time.